Hey everybody, welcome back to ChallengeYourself.blog. Robot hand is coming along, looks really good, so let's check it out. So since last video, I did a BitChute exclusive earlier this week, but since then I've added these orthodontic rubber bands. These are acting as ligaments in between the metacarpals and the carpal, which is basically a fused piece, a little bit different than what's in your hand. Another thing that I modified was this joint here, so now we've got actual full range of motion, and this will allow for the fingertips to actually come in contact. These bolts across the front, I've got these hooked together so that way it kind of keeps the hand together, since there's going to be some fishing line that comes along the outer part of the hand, and that way it'll pull the hand apart. I also added these little finger protectors, so these are what you use for playing guitar, and they're pretty inexpensive, so I added these, and this will add a lot more gripping ability. It has a little bit of texture to it, and they're kind of sticky on the face. So those are basically most of the updates. So one thing I've started to work on, and I did a couple of these as an example, and this is for the tendons, is as you can see there's a large mess of tendons or fishing line that's hanging below, and it's pretty long and cumbersome. So I got a jewelry making kit, and I started tying off with these little tiny rings. So I was able to cut the line, and I'll be able to do quick disconnects with these little lobster claw clasps, and it'll work really well, because then if a line breaks, I don't have to rethread the whole thing all the way back down through to the forearm. This will give me the ability to do a little bit more maintenance on the fly. Also, in the carpals region, I added these bands that go across the front and back faces. This helps with keeping the tendons or fishing line organized and keeps it from getting tangled on the way that the old one was, is the line just basically dangled. This kind of keeps it a little bit more confined, a lot like what's actually in the human hand. Another thing I've done is I've added these little hooks. What this does is it allows me to take some of these bolts out and connect the ligaments directly to the part. I got it on the front and back, and it allows me to save space. It also allows me to remove some of the bolts. I can use them in different places. But overall, I was a little bit afraid that the size might cause some issue with strength, but so far so good. It's holding up really well. I haven't had a chance to add the foam in here yet, but that's coming. I might redesign the knuckle joint a little bit. One thing I'm a little bit concerned about is I've had a couple nuts on the smaller bolts work their way off. I might be able to kind of redesign and go to this style joint. It snaps in. I can probably add some more of these hooks. I've kind of sped up the process a little bit to make the hooking up and whatnot a little bit quicker. So now that in Fusion 360 I've got the hooks kind of designed as a component, I can add as many as I want relatively quickly. So the amazing thing is I've basically designed and built this thing in 2 weeks. It's come along a lot faster and a lot better than I expected in the first rendition of this. So what's coming up next? I'm going to start cutting these fishing lines, the tendons. I'm going to basically put these rings on the ends. There's quite a few lines, so it's going to take a little bit of time to go through that. But basically after that, I'll start threading the little lobster claws, and that should allow me to start working on getting the wrist and forearm design and printed. So to be a little bit more efficient with my time, I try to do a little bit of design, do a little bit of printing, and try to do a little bit of the mechanical stuff so that the printer's always going. As you can see, it's not running at the moment. I have a few things to iron out, but I try to keep the time balance, because some of the parts take between 2 and 6 hours to print, so it's always good to go back and tweak a design, print something off. And that's, in one hand, you kind of look at, well, how much material is it going to take and how much time is it going to take to print out, how much energy are you putting into it, into the printer itself, because it's got a heated bed. So you kind of balance those things out, but a lot of times you can't really determine whether or not something's actually going to work unless you actually do it. So you'll see that I've printed off several versions of some of the phalanges, some of the metacarpals, and basically, without having those in hand, you can't kind of look at like the bolt hole, or no, it wasn't the bolt holes, it was the fishing line holes. I aligned with the bolt holes and didn't realize that I was going to kind of have basically a spatial issue, or I basically had an arrangement issue. But to get around that, I just kind of doubled up on the number of holes, because there's always a chance that I'm going to be using them. One of the interesting things about doing vlogging and posting your video content across multiple video platforms is sometimes you'll see viewership fluctuate from one to the other. And I've started posting on BitChute, and I've been really surprised at how much traffic in a short period of time has been generated. My YouTube traffic hasn't been really as high, and some of the most recent videos have had actually very little viewership compared to some of the early ones. I don't know if it's a search algorithm issue or not, but BitChute I've been getting quite a bit of traction on, so I might start doing more BitChute exclusive videos, just to kind of keep the momentum going with the community. It seems that the traffic there is definitely a lot higher, and definitely appreciate it. So everybody that's on BitChute and they're looking at my videos, really appreciate it. Please share, like, and subscribe if you haven't done that already. Really helps out the channel, and really like getting the feedback and comments and all the social media platforms. So reach out, ask questions, and share the content. So talk to you soon.